the nation. Love him or hate him, Larry Flint has exposed this sort of hypocrisy to great effect over the last decade. He is the longtime publisher of HUSLER magazine, CEO of the Flint Management Group, and author of the book, One Nation Under Sex, How the Private Lives of Presidents, First Ladies, and Their Lovers Changed the Course of American History. Larry Flint, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. I really appreciate your time.
Glad to be here, Rachel.
Why did you twice offer $1 million to expose politicians being hypocrites in their own sex lives?
I only got one vote. That's the only way I could affect political change and try to create a revolving door in Washington. And that's what we've always been about. You know, I will tell you a story that you'll appreciate. Livingston, when he resigned, the day he resigned, he did an interview with the New York Times, and they asked him what he thought about me, and he said, well, Larry Flint's a bottom feeder. So the Times called me for a comment. I said, yeah, that's right, but look what I found when I got down there. These guys are pigs, and you got to get down in the mud with them. Vinter, it wasn't just the madam that he was seeing in Washington. He was visiting 2 different brothels in New Orleans, and the thing that drove me bananas about him is he was pushing his abstinence program. Now, would you want him to go around teaching your 13 or 14-year-old girl about abstinence? I mean, these guys are unbelievable. And in the book that I wrote, the scandals were just as bad 200 years ago as they are now. And they use them just as viciously to campaign against one another. And the Republicans now are trying to set up a double standard with Weiner, but I don't think we should fall for it.
You described sort of wanting to create a revolving door in Washington, essentially wanting to hound these guys, embarrass these guys so that they would get out. But Vitter is still in the Senate, which you can probably tell amazes me. No national Republican calling on Vitter to resign or Ensign to resign.
Well, Rachel, who's to blame for that is the Senate. The Senate Ethics Committee is responsible for that. And you know how hard Melanie Sloan's been working on this. You know, they don't want to police, you know, their own members, and I just think it's unfair that burden is put on the public. That should be the most important committee that they have, is the one on ethics.
Do you think that political hypocrisy is the sort of bright line here? If politicians are not being political hypocrites, if they're not going after other people's sex lives and morals and families, should their private sleeping around stay private, or is that still newsworthy?
It's universal, but you know, something that no one's pointed out here, you know, other than the desire for survival, the strongest single desire we have is that for sex. So the one medium that we use to communicate with more than anything else, we understand it the least. So sure, Weiner had his excesses. Everybody has their excesses, and a lot of people have trouble keeping them in check. But I think we ought to look to the issue of what laws were actually broken, and not necessarily what somebody's moral conduct was.
Do you think that, though, it matters the way a politician has campaigned, the positions he or she has taken, as to whether or not something about their private lives should be made public?
Well, look, you become a public figure because you place yourself there, either by a job you accept or by an action that you commit. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm the first guy to defend a philandering president. I think if you can fight 2 wars and balance a budget at the same time, you should be able to sleep with whoever you want to. So I'm sort of an enigma in this Weiner situation.
Mr. Flint, you once wrote me a really thoughtful letter around the time of the Mark Sanford scandal. You said you felt that Governor Sanford should get some credit for sincerity, essentially, for really falling in love. Do you have a soft spot for these guys, even as they would all probably try to deport you to Mars if you thought it would make a good campaign ad?
Of all the sex scandals we've had in the last few years, Sanford, I got some sympathy for, because what happened to him is the guy fell in love, you know. With these other dogs, you know, it was just sex.
And do you think that means that Mark Sanford falling in love and leaving his wife in that way, that it wasn't a scandal we shouldn't have covered it, or do you think it just made too much fun of him?
No, I don't think that excuses him for anything. I just thought it was unusual that it turned out the way it did, and the guy really happened to be in love. The problems that he created in his own marriage and for his own political career, that's a different situation that he needs to address.
Larry Flint, CEO of the Flint Management Group, author of the book One Nation Under Sex, How the Private Lives of Presidents, First Ladies, and Their Lovers Changed the Course of American History, and an unexpected big softie on issues like this. Mr. Flint, I really appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Bye.
Okay, so we just had Larry Flint on the show to talk about the David Vitter problem. It is possible that my life is complete. So if I'm not back after the commercial break, I want you to know that I died happy, okay? Okay.